Welcome to All Elite Reviewing, the only show that covers every aspect of the All Elite universe and both through and side by side to the Forbidden Door. I am the Forbidden Door, Joshua Starnes.
And I am the Forbidden Key, Jimmy Josh.
I keep your key away from my door, okay? I don't know.
How keys and doors work, bro. Have you not seen Alice in Wonderland?
I remember about that is stuff about magic mushrooms and all stuff that they shouldn't have been
also
teaching.
That awesome, the pot smoking caterpillar, because he's my favorite character.
I bet he is. And we have been off the air for way longer than we expected. Yeah. So that Thanksgiving / Christmas.
I had a wrestling match come up almost a month ago, and then I got COVID at that wrestling match. So Omicron is a fucking bitch. I mean, well, it is and it isn't, right? It's like not transmissible, but it also gets you every fucking time. So I've been dealing with that. We've had a lot of things we've dealt through this whole month.
Yeah.
And
all of that across Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Yeah, it's been almost as tough as being Cody Rhodes at an AEW event, but we've gotten through it, and we're back, and we're ready to take all of those chants for Let's Go Cody and continue on to the new year. No, but we've got
Hook is gonna kill you. That's my favorite chant. Hook is gonna kill you.
He's
Hook
the new
Hook is gonna no sell you.
He's the new Goldberg. We got a potential gold mine.
Kind of, yeah. That whole it's like it's an ironic thing that the whole started with him, but now people are just kind of firmly behind it because he's not terrible in the ring.
He's good in the ring. I mean, yeah. but it's a long way. But
thing's a little much for for his thing. Yeah.
Well, it's just like anything else that starts on Twitter. At some point, you have to go all right, this only matters on Twitter, and once it gets out to the real world, it's way less important.
But then Twitter and our worlds combined, and then you have what's going to kill you. Come out.
We shall see. Of the two matches you've done so far, they've both been short but enjoyable. But
right, Fago the Soul and Barry Bronson, okay.
Yeah, they've been the very I don't say the opposite, but in some ways, the very opposite of winter is coming, which it's been so long. Winter came and went when we got 60 minutes of Bryan Danielson and Hangman Adam Page for a draw.
What? The last time did we even talk about a 30-minute match?
No. The last time we talked, they had obviously Hangman had won the AEW championship, and Bryan Danielson had defeated Miro to cement himself as the number one contender. And it was just a matter of when were they going to do that? Were they going to try and string that out all the way to Revolution or have it earlier? Obviously, they decided to have it earlier for their Winter is Coming match to lead into for a draw to lead into a second one for this week's upcoming first episode on TBS as Dynamite moves to its new channel and reclaims a bunch of its West Coast viewers back to prime time, hopefully getting some of those above 1 million viewership numbers again.
Carries like American Dad and Chad, and a bunch of good comedy shows. They used to have Seinfeld back in the day. Now they have Dynamite.
They've had some.
Rampage still on TNT or
Rampage is staying on TNT. I think originally when they first announced Hook's show, when they first announced the move, it was both shows are going to go to TBS. But apparently, Rampage's numbers have been so much better than anything else they've ever put into Friday at 10 o'clock, which is not the same thing as being good, just so much better than anything else they've ever put in at Friday at 10 o'clock. They decided they had to keep it.
Hook effect.
I'm pretty sure that was happening before Hook was on the show. I don't think
here.
I don't think we can
just Hook and Jade. That's the two stars are and used to be Miro before he got sidelined, but yeah.
Well, he's apparently Miro's working through a hamstring injury that he got.
Yeah, because he used to be dominating every time he's there.
He apparently had it even before Full Gear, and just because they were suddenly so short-handed, he came out and he worked that whole Full Gear match.
Oh, so was neck like a code for hamstring, basically?
Apparently.
Yeah.
So, but he's still working through that. But they're still doing promos with him, so I'm assuming he's coming back soon.
White background, no? I like them changing up the visual thing with him.
He has some of the best promos. And it's, I'm saying he has some of the best promos in AEW, and that's really saying something because AEW generally, they'll have bad ones here and there, but for the most part, they have a lot of good promos, and they're all very different. MJF is very different from Cody, is very different from John Moxley, is very different from Miro, but they're all great in very different ways.
Yeah, but I can't even remember the last bad promo from AEW, honestly, other than like the Jade Cargo shit, like from like way back. But
Man, some of that. I mean, it was mostly on Dark, but some of that Joey stuff.
I just hate who he is as a person, and like
did you?
He's Anthony Ogogo back, so that's all that he's promoting now.
Did you just compliment QT Marshall?
No.
Have we gone through the looking glass?
No, I get where you're asking that. Here's the thing: I cannot compliment him. I mean, I can compliment. I'll be ready to compliment Anthony Ogogo before QT Marshall.
I don't know.
Camarado, but Aaron Solo, I don't see anything from. But
now he's there to fill it out, and they're giving him some space, which is good. They're giving him some reps, but that roster is getting more and more stacked and packed all the time. Since we've come on, they've signed, obviously, they signed Jay Lethal, and now signed Tony Nese, who got himself a TNT title championship, had a pretty good match with Sammy Guevara. They've now signed Mercedes Martinez has come in to beef up the women's division.
Yeah.
They now announced yesterday they signed Jake Atlas, who had a tryout match on Elevation this past week, and immediately afterwards it was announced to be signed, which is someone that a lot of guys at AEW wanted him a long time ago, and he chose to go to WWE, and it didn't work out, and now he's back, and they finally got him. He was Jake Atlas. He was on NXT. He never got out of NXT.
Okay.
And then he got.
NXT guys going to those. It's like AEW is becoming like NXT next, basically.
I know, or as we should say, undisputed era, because it's been long enough now that not only have we had the release of Adam Cole and his arrival at All Out, now we've gotten Red Dragon has completely reunited, and we have except for Roderick Strong, who's still in NXT, we have the entire Undisputed Era is now on AEW and continuing storylines from NXT.
No, they just randomly showed up. Now they're part of the story. Like the whole thing. Yeah. That's. I mean, I have such a belief. And I'm almost mad at myself for never watching Adam Cole before this whole thing, because I think
you missed out. You missed out.
Yeah, and so this whole thing to put him in the center roles, and when Kenny comes back, see, it ain't worse. But yeah.
Yep. But I like this feud that they've been having with Orange Cassidy. They've really gotten a lot out of Orange Cassidy. They've gotten him out of the Matt Hardy stuff, which for the most part, which is good, because Adam Cole's a much better fit for him and for stuff with the Best Friends.
What was a darker elevation last week when Orange Cassidy was there with the lazy inside cradle and
that was great.
It was so good, like all the counters. I think it was against him and Cesar Bononi. Yeah, with Pretty Peter Avalon and him versus him, Orange Cassidy and Willie Utah. So,
yep.
Yeah.
No, they've been having.
It's the best Orange Cassidy. Well, not the best, but like very good Orange Cassidy. So.
It's the best that he's had since Double or Nothing last year. I mean, you're not going to top being in the main event of a pay-per-view with the champion for the championship.
The triple match with him and
with Pac and Kenny. Yeah. So it's hard to top that, but this is the best this is the best stuff he's been involved with since then, and it's just been top notch.
So where's Pac these days?
I don't know. He comes and goes. I haven't heard anything. My guess, if it's not injury. Well, if it's not injury, my guess would be that he can't get out of England due to COVID. Probably.
It's a big reason now.
Yeah. So hopefully he's not stuck.
Or she just stays here. Most people stay
here. I know. Just moved to Florida.
Oh wait, no.
We've gone through almost the entire TBS championship tournament, which hadn't even started yet the last time we talked, and now we've gone through all the initial rounds up to the final, which is going to be
Ruby Soho versus Jade, right?
That's what I expected, and I expect Ruby Soho to win.
Yes. Although I would be surprised if Jade wins too.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I know that I can see why. They've done why people would think that, because they've done a really good job of protecting her. But this is the kind of thing you protect your monster heel for, so that when you can put them in a championship match, and it really seems like the champion has really achieved something by winning. But the reality is, we have just passed the 1 year mark since her first match, which was the Shaq match, which was really good. It's one of my favorite memories from 2021 for AEW.
Yeah, well, the match was.
she's gotten a lot better on the mic, but she's still learning in the ring.
Also, smart mark helps though, but yeah.
Smart mark helps a lot. She's really good at 3-minute squashes, but a champion's going to need to be doing more than that, especially for AEW. And one thing we saw in the Thunder Rosa match, where she beat Thunder Rosa after some interference by the arriving and newly signee Mercedes Martinez.
Right. But we knew Thunder Rosa was up for bigger and better things.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to put her on yeah, I knew they weren't going to put the TBS title on her because they need to have something for her to do, and then eventually until Double or Nothing, and then it's going to be her and Britt. And that's the biggest women's match they can have by far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it was an iconic match that they had last time. Britt's
I know.
For graphics and everything with the blood and everything.
I don't think they'll be able to beat that because they're not going to be able to do a lights out match for the next title match. But still, it's still the biggest match they can do. But that also meant we got to have, I think it's like the second ever 10-minute, 11-minute Jade Cargill match. The first one where there wasn't like a lot of smoke and mirrors, and she's not ready to be having those like on a regular basis. And one thing you'll notice about the champions, about AEW's champions, they don't put their titles on people who can't have at least 12-minute TV matches.
Of course, yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be Jade.
Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, one day she'll be the women's champion, but she's not quite ready for it yet. But they're definitely protecting her for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean,
she won't lose often.
I don't know if we're talking about this, but Dark has been almost its own show these days.
Yep.
And the thing, we haven't seen her around a lot, but it's been a month since she's been on the show, right? So, May Saruga, I gotta get this out. I loved her on Dark. I thought she was awesome. I thought she was great as Amy Sakura was caddy. And when she wrestled, I thought she had a lot of good moves. It was one of those because we don't see Dark storylines very much these days. Every
so often, mostly it's used to give people reps. Every so often you'll have something that goes between matches, but not too much.
They're tune-up matches, basically, for the main shows. But the fact that they had their own thing, they could tell their own story, and it was a great match, I thought. I mean, so I want to see more Nate Sabuga, but Josh gave me the bad news. Apparently, she's back in Japan now. So.
It's the same problem with Lulu Pencil. She can come for a little while, and then she got to go back, and she can come for a little while, and because she
never wrestled.
Well, I know they both wrestle in Japan, but I know she never did. Well, May hardly ever did either. I think she had one match where she actually wrestled.
But that's not just one match.
I know. Well, she had wrestled more. She had she had wrestled in the women's tournament that they did partially in Japan and partially in the U.S. back at the beginning of the year. But I watched it. I watched all of it, and some of it was really good.
My bad. No one.
I wish that they would do that again.
No one versus it.
I wish that they would do that again. The thing is, they can't really do it when COVID's down enough that they can actually have matches in an arena with people. If they had a bunch of
that's the problem.
If they had a bunch of Japanese fans in a building for a tournament in Japan and then some in the US, and you have something like a G1 type tournament, that'd be great. I know there's a lot of people thinking that the Owen, which was announced at Full Gear and we're still only getting news about, but is going to be happening. The Owen Hart tournament is going to be happening, in the spring and ending at Double or Nothing. And a lot of people are talking about that. Maybe that's in the something like the G1, and because there's a lot of people who've been wanting something like the G1 for the US, and there haven't been any companies that have really wanted to do tournaments in the US, but that could be a good one.
When I heard about the Owen Hart tournament, because the whole history with the Hart family and everything, because Owen Hart's wife has been very protective of his legacy.
Very.
So I'm assuming this happened with all their permission, where she was
they came out. They did a big. It was a little bit before all out. They had a big press release, and she came and she said, "All right, I have signed a deal with AEW to have them, be the custodians of Owen's legacy. So we're going to make Owen Hart T-shirts and merchandise through. There's going to be an Owen Hart action figure finally. That's released through the All Elite Wrestling action figure line. So because there's never been an Owen Hart, a light official Owen Hart figure, because she would never let WWE make one.
They're pretty bad.
Some are good. Cameron and Hannah got some for Christmas, and they actually look pretty legit. They got a Cody and a Luchasaurus.
Oh, that's a good one. Luchasaurus actually had the best one out of all.
He had a really, really good one.
Yeah, it looked like a He-Man figure.
Yeah, he's so big. And they've been doing a lot with. I'll get to that in a second, but and she now and Owen's gonna be like a character in the AEW wrestling game when it finally comes out. So, which is supposed to be this coming year. So we're almost ready for it. I am very excited for it. But then and then obviously they announced they announced it way back in the summer. We're going to do the Owen tournament, which they're finally going to have. They've even had like some really good videos about Owen Hart on Dynamite, explaining like who he was and why he's important, and the handful of people left who knew him personally. I'm excited for this.
Well, the few people that knew him personally, like the Mark Henrys and like Taz of the world, basically Mark Henry, like
Taz, Mark Henry, Jim Ross, Chris Jericho. That's like it. I think that's like it. Who actually knew him directly.
I mean, that was a while ago. We're old.
Big Show. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's 20 years ago. But I know. Where does that time go?
Oh, by the way, so I'm not saying so. We've seen Sean Spears and Wardlow keep their whole storyline up, right?
I know. Sean Spears has taken over the body slam with the power bombs. He's now putting new people onto. What was that guy's name? We set our scale for best squashes, and the guy who got body slammed by Powerhouse Hobbs like 50 times. And I've forgotten his name now, but we were gonna say he was gonna be like our scale.
Cowboy guy.
The cowboy guy, Clayton something.
Yeah.
It was Clayton something.
Yeah.
No, it's or Chance or Chance something. It was something like that.
But I saw Sean Spears this week had a shirt on that said "Just Swing It."
Yes.
You're doing the Rock's bullshit. That's
yes.
Yeah, so
he looks so weird without a beard and without the goatee. He needs to grow that goatee back.
I don't like that. He's doing that. I'm like, go back to the goatee. It looks so much better.
Well, apparently, it was Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green's wedding this weekend, and he shaved it for the wedding.
Wow. So the wedding person was like, "Hey, no, you got to shave your shit. Like, come on.
Got to look good. Got to look good in the tuxedo." But he needs to grow that back. It looks weird on the goatee. But I really like they got to turn Wardlow. So that's the other thing. The other thing that we've seen is Wardlow just power bombing dudes to death and winning and becoming a giant babyface, and we all have to assume that he's going to turn babyface pretty soon.
Right? That's what's going on because they say one more time, so they do it. And it's funny because their whole argument is like, "Hey, bro, just when you're done." I'm like, that's very not a heel thing. A heel thing is just to beat the shit out of the person as much as you can to win. So they're like, "Oh, like don't do it." I'm like, if you're a heel, you should just letting him beat the shit out of somebody.
No, heels do the opposite of what the crowds want. The heel thing is when the crowd says one more power bomb, they put the dude in a headlock.
This is classic. Like, I'm gonna throw my shirt to you. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. Yeah, because I'm a giant dick. And so I guess the question now is, does Wardlow turn on MJF before or after the CM Punk match, which I'm assuming they're building up for Revolution, because that's such a big match. You figure that they have to hold that for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Wardlow turn is like that. It's been such a long burn that it's going to be a longer burn than what we're seeing right now. Like, like at least you're finally acknowledging it and kind of building towards what's going to happen. But now it's just them saying, like, "Hey, you're doing too many power bombs." It's going to be some bigger problem down the line.
Yeah, is it part of the CM Punk story or is it its own story? But I guess we shall see.
It's kind of like to see it, really. If you want to like include Wardlow and be like, "Hey, Wardlow, why are you taking this shit from MJF?" But
maybe.
Could be. Happen,
well, I remember at one point for Full Gear there was going to be a CM Punk Wardlow match that didn't happen, but maybe they're holding that off, and maybe CM Punk has to beat Wardlow, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back between Wardlow and MJF.
Right now.
Well, they gotta, if they're holding it for the pay-per-view, and they should, they gotta come up with stuff for CM Punk and MJF to do that's not wrestling each other.
Those type of storylines, it's like the Virgil from back in the day, the Batista from like the other day, like these type of things, like take time to build. Like it has to be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it has to be, and you can't have MJF and FTR versus Sting and Darby Allin and CM Punk every week, as much as we might wish that you could. So you've got to come up with other things that they can do.
Exactly.
That was about as fun of a party match as I can remember seeing. Even though Darby Allin had to jump across the entire ring to wrap it up, it was still good. And it was in Greensboro, North Carolina, right in the heart of North Kakalaki.
Man, like, can you make it with even part of that shit?
I know.
From North Carolina.
He could have gone in North Carolina. I'm sure they'll go back. I mean, they're go.
Embarrassed that we didn't even get the fucking Michael Jordan reference to
No, they had to say it. I was like, I don't get it until they actually said. I assumed it was.
We both like basketball. You're fucking North Carolina.
I assumed it was like a Ric Flair thing or something. We totally failed. We just get it.
No, we did. I failed too. I'm there with you, brother. We both failed.
Yeah, you should have got it with all the basketball reference and everything.
What Louise shit?
You're on your own. You're in the wilderness now.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is like the level of greatness, and this is the thing I like most about AEW is on the one hand, and we haven't talked about this enough, so I do want to take a chance. But before we go back to Dark, is on the one hand, you are getting like New Japan level super showdown stuff like Hangman Page versus Bryan Danielson, which is going in my list as one of the best matches I saw this year. And I didn't think anything was going to beat Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, but this was even better. And when was the last time somebody did a 60-minute draw in America? Was that in the 80s?
I figured he was going to go to that. It was the Kenny Omega match. I didn't expect it, but after they did the 30-minute draw, to me, like as a writer, you're thinking like, well, the only logical solution is 60-minute draw. So I was kind of expecting.
I didn't think they were before it started. By the time I should have been thinking about it when they came on first, because the first thing I did think when they came on first, I'm like, oh, they're going to give this match time. But I was thinking that might be like 30 minutes or something. By the time they got to 45 minutes, I was like, this is going to go to a draw. Because
how do you top a 30-minute draw?
Yeah,
60-minute draw.
Yeah, because there is. I was thinking like, there's no way they're going to get to the last 60 minutes and then beat the guy in the last 2 seconds, which they have done that before, but they don't do that very often. So, and I didn't think they would do that when you're talking about Bryan Danielson.
They're booking like everybody's still like Bryan Danielson's still a credible threat.
Yeah,
it makes the third match such a big fucking deal.
Yeah. So. And we haven't even talked about how great and how easily Bryan Danielson turned himself heel immediately within like 2 seconds after Full Gear.
Yeah, like
as soon as he started coming out and talking about
Cody Rhodes, so he can be
We'll see. Well, you know what? If people keep being Bryan Danielson, he can just, whenever he wants to be a babyface, he can come out as Infinito and wrestle as Infinito. Because one of the great things that we got on Dark, and there were a couple. Dark is really, like you were saying, Dark has really developed its own flavor. Was Bryan Danielson launching his second identity as a masked luchador named Infinito from the infinite reaches of space, weighing more than the total mass of the universe. And it was great. It is. It was great, and he wrestled nothing like Bryan Danielson. It was even better than Fuego 2. And I love Fuego Dos.
Yeah, of course you did. Because who is he? I still don't know.
I don't know. He looks strangely like a couple of different AEW wrestlers, but I can't quite narrow it down.
Like very strategic makeup on like his body.
That's not makeup. That's probably just like a bad sunburn or something.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what sunburns are like. So.
Or maybe it's just a bad burn from like going through a flaming table or something. I mean, how crazy has the last 2 months been that we're not even talking about the flaming table spot on national television?
Right. I mean, it was almost like ECW, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Get people behind Cody. You need to that's my spot. And that was when Brandy returned. So
that was when Brandy returned. Hey, you know what?
I don't have to wrestle, but that's okay. That's fine.
She's only as far as I know, she's only wrestled on Dark. So there you go. That's part of that dark thing.
I love Brandy. I think she's hot as shit. I think she must be a very nice person, but her wrestling just a little bit to be desired right now.
She's all right, but the women's division is a much different place than it was when she was wrestling in it. It's not the early days when they had a hard time getting talent, and it's not the pandemic days where they were basically stuck in Daly's place. It is stacked, and it's set up to become even more stacked. We just saw them sign Mercedes Martinez. They have Ruby Soho now. You've got Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb. I mean, we've had now 3 different Serena Deeb, Hikaru Shida matches. 2 titles.
satisfy all the talent.
I mean, at this point, you almost have to. I don't want them to do like too many belts.
Titles.
You almost have. Yeah, they have 2 women's titles.
Oh, I guess yeah.
Because they have this stupid brand split. I mean, it's stupid, but they have it. But at this point, you almost need to have like women's tag team titles too, because you have like crazy tag team stuff. Well, they had medals. They didn't have title. They had medals that couldn't be changed. But since that happened, you've also had Ember Moon has been released by WWE. Taya Valkyrie has been released by WWE. A week ago, Toni Storm walked out of WWE.
That was a weird shit, right? Apparently, like she just literally walked out, like you said, like no,
walked out. So did Jeff Hardy. Like in the last month, Jeff Hardy and Toni Storm have both walked out of WWE.
Well, did Jeff Hardy walk out, or like he wouldn't be able to perform?
No, he walked out. He walked out. I mean, he didn't finish the match. He didn't finish the match he was in. I mean, Toni Storm finished her match and went home. Jeff Hardy
thing from Sting right back in the day, like was he just too fucked up? Or
no, they're saying like that's not it. No one really knows. It still seems it's a bit of a mystery.
WWE tried to spin it. It was like, oh, Jeff Hardy is so fucked up again.
Yeah, they're saying that they offered him rehab. He said he didn't need it, and so they cut him. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's obviously
angle in WWE.
Yeah, but WWE also does that a lot when they're as soon as Keith Lee got cut, they started saying, "Oh, he was hard to work with." So and
your campaign kind of like going behind him, like, yeah, well, fuck him. I didn't fire, like I quit. Shit. Yeah.
But I won't be surprised if Toni Storm shows up. I won't be surprised if Ember Moon shows up. And those are like 2 supreme talents that will. And we keep talking about the women's division really turning into something big. That would make it really turn into something. And then now you've got like a lot of potential
NXT talents. So
yeah, exactly. And you have like all this NXT talent showing up all the time. There was a picture. I was looking at YouTube the other day. And one of the videos that it popped up to me was, and this was the actual subtitle of the video was Adam Cole and it was Tenaro Conti confronts Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And I was looking at it going like, I don't remember this happening. Did I fall asleep through a segment on Dynamite? And then I looked down at the thing. It was like, this happened 4 years ago on NXT.
A lot of people complain about this because like, oh, all you're doing is citing exceptional other people. But the reason a lot of those people were WWE people to begin with is because they're good.
Yeah.
I think they're not just signing bad talent. They're just signing people who are good. Like everyone that we've seen come over, it's like you can't say like, oh yeah, they've been kind of shitty over here. I mean, even if people want to bitch about like CM Punk's work rate like during the matches or everything, but obviously his star power and everything has been awesome. So it's one of those things like if people deserve to be on TV for wrestling, they're gonna put you on TV for wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that means like some people from the early days aren't getting on TV because you got to be really good. You've either got to be really good or you got to be willing to, like get do the splits and the thumbtacks and take a barbed wire sleeper hold like the Bunny and Penelope Ford did. But you know what? That was a crazy match. And what's even
it's like thumbtacks. I'm like, all right. Well, it's like how WWE used to always do like the baseball like barbed wire thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like your go-to weapon.
Yeah. You know what? It gets the crowds over. Like the crowds don't always care about the women's matches, but
or New Jack like cutting a shit up or some shit.
But they cared about that last women's match, and then they still got up for the Cody and Ethan Page match, which was really good.
See, and what I was telling you, like the last time we had this fucking show, we were talking about Cody Rhodes. I was like, if you want people to actually cheer him, put him against people like Ethan Page.
Yeah. Well, I would say that was like the thing that you can see how smart they were about it, even though you still got like 50-50, that they very quickly, you could see that they very quickly and very subtly positioned him away from Malachi Black to Andrade, so that because Andrade doesn't have like, he's a good wrestler, but he doesn't have like a ton of people cheering for him and going, yay. So, he did his big flaming table match against Andrade. He did his other matches against Andrade. So it was a lot easier for Andrade to get the heat. And then, then you push him to that. And then they pushed him into the stuff with America's Top Team and Ethan Page. And it's really easy to hate Ethan Page because he's really good at being a heel.
Yeah, he's a very good heel. Yeah. He's not like cool here. Like, oh, like, well, I can't even say like MGF. Like, no, Ethan Page is just like a fucking like braggart. Like, see him shut up. It's like Dan Lambert. Like, I still don't. I'm not sure that they need Dan Lambert, but Also, like seeing Dan Lambert stick. So yeah,
I do. And you know what? For everybody who says that, if you just watch the crowd, they get so much heat in the
I know,
building.
but it is
How can?
because he's like, you know why AEW sucks? Because the Rays are the best. That's why they suck.
But it works. I mean, when it turns into go away heat, then yeah, you've overstayed your welcome. But it is not go away heat. It is.
Oh
Heat.
no, it's not X Pac. No.
It's not X-Pac heat.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the thing. This is the crowd, and he starts stamping his feet. Like, no, that's not a thing. Like, let's see what does he from a heel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you even turned me around in 2.0 because they get that's what they're for. They're being cartoonish heels. Like they might as well have mustaches and go.
They are the best cartoonish heels. And then when things need to get serious, they bring out Daniel Garcia, and then they turn around and they go back to being cartoonish.
Although I guess Daniel Garcia got some wins against Eddie Kingston. But
yeah, because they see the future in him. Like him, Lee Moriarty, those are going to be next generation guys.
But I know I'm jumping all over the place here. I'm sorry. It's been so many weeks since I've done. But one thing I am looking forward to, just like actually the last couple of Eddie fucking Kingston feuds he's had, beautiful. I am looking forward to Eddie versus Jericho.
Do you think it's going to be versus Jericho, or do you think they're going to end up having to team up?
Oh no, the way he's been doing the lone wolf thing is like I need your help and everything. It feels like
Who's the heel? Who's the heel?
Aren't you the same person on every episode of this show that says AEW doesn't really care about faces and heels? Doesn't really matter.
They don't care until they care. But more importantly, let's put it this way: for long-term storytelling purposes, they don't care. Because people can be shades of gray. But within a match, they do care because every match has to have a baby face and a heel. Now they may just end up being baby faces when they get out of the ring, or whatever, or they may end up being both heels when they get out of the ring. But while they're in the ring,
on CM Punk in his first match on pay-per-view fight Darby Allin.
Exactly. Yeah, but CM Punk kind of worked a little bit heel.
I can't believe I was finding your own stuff for that match.
But like in that match, in the ring, CM Punk was working heel.
So you're think Eddie and like Jericho are going to team up versus like actually fight each other? Jericho be better than that?
I think it's 50-50. I don't know what they have in mind. This is one of those ones where I don't know what they have in mind.
I feel like Eddie's like running through like the best promo people. Like he's like, all right, like CM Punk, let's get Jericho up.
I think it would make sense if I thought they were going to turn Eddie heel, but I can't see them doing that. So I don't know how it makes sense.
All right, I guess there's still like seeds planted the whole thing. We'll see.
There are seeds planted.
What is Sammy? Is Sammy injured now? Like he's gonna be back in the title picture?
No, he's back. He's on Battle of the Belts on Saturday. He's having his rematch with Cody Rhodes at Battle of the Belts. It's gonna be those are the two matches. Are gonna be Sammy with his rematch, and then Britt Baker and Riho for the women's championship. Because I think at one point they were probably going to do Hangman and Danielson at Battle of the Belts for the major championship.
Wait, that's not happening?
It's happening tomorrow on Dynamite.
Oh.
I think somewhere along the lines they went, you know what? We need more time than 30 minutes because Battle of the Belts is only a 1 hour show. Yeah. Well, I think it's a mixture of Battle of the Belts is only a 1 hour show. If there's a 2 hour show, they might do more, but it's not. It's only a 1 hour special.
That's gonna be pay-per-view, right?
Yeah. No. It's on TNT. It's a special on TNT. It's gonna be on TNT on Saturday night.
All the belts, that would be pay-per-view.
It would make more sense if it was like 2 hours and they did all the belts. And that's what it sounded like it was going to be initially, but that's, at least for the first version, that is not what it is. It's only an hour, so they can only really do 2 matches.
And when you have like a quarterly pay-per-view, you get the luxury of like dividing it up.
So I think somewhere along the lines they went, we can't do a world title match in an hour and give the other title match that comes after it enough time. So let's put it on Dynamite where we've got 2 hours.
Have Hook go after a TNT title.
You don't want Hook to lose so quickly. Come on.
Is he gonna lose though? He sold a pile driver from Aaron Robinson.
I don't think he's gonna lose if he goes against like mid card and lower card guys, but he's not going to the top of the card.
Like they do like a storyline where Starks is like jealous of Hooks and like Hooker.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we can all ask the question of what happened to Brian Cage. Brian Cage.
Oh, poor guy.
He's not even on Dark. At least Joey Janela can show up on Dark.
I mean, is he even with the company anymore?
He's still with the company. I'm wondering. He's not hurt because he's wrestling for independent shows.
He's hurt.
So Probably.
Yeah.
He's just his big heart got
Well, he's not
broken.
booked anymore. That's the thing. His whole future went to shit because Ricky Starks got injured.
I don't even think it was Ricky Starks. It had to be something else. Because if they want you,
That's weird.
if they see something in you, even if like the guy, it's not like WWE where if your tag team partner gets injured, you have nothing to do. They have nothing
Oh,
for you. If they like you, they'll
no,
find something else for you to do. The fact that they found nothing, that was it, and without that, they had nothing. I don't know.
maybe he's difficult to work with or something like.
I figure there has to be.
So there. So I
There
mean,
has to be.
he just must be the master. That's it. Like no one wants to work with him.
There has to be some kind of backstage heat. I mean, I can't think of any other.
Right.
Either that or they're just like, no, it didn't work. His promos are terrible and his ring work.
Or
isn't
like your
good.
wife should shut up on Twitter.
Or your wife won't shut up on Twitter. So I don't know. So either he leaves or he's like Diamante and he buckles down and does a lot of work on Dark until he gets TV time.
Yeah, which has not happened yet. So
Which is not, and he's not even getting that. So yeah, I don't know.
well, and now it's all about booking. So.
Maybe he doesn't want to do Dark. Maybe he's like, I want to do TV. I don't know. But that was your perfect opening to talk about how far along Joey Janela has come on Dark recently and what they've been doing with it.
Is that really? It's about how far they've come along, or the fact that they finally did something with the storyline?
No, I think the storyline came with it. A lot of his matches this past year have not been good. I mean, there's a reason he's on Dark and not on TV.
This thing, because I'm used to Joey Janela having time. I was so fucking impressed with Sonny Kiss because I felt like Sonny Kiss finally put aside the whole gimmick thing and was just like a fucking wrestler the whole match.
Yep.
And Sonny Kiss had the best bumps of the whole night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was so impressed with him, and the fact that he can still get over with the crowd and everything.
Mhm.
And I kind of I had a feeling that Joey Janela was soon to get over, but like, man, all the table bumps they did. I
They
mean,
did
there
a
was
lot of
a
tape.
cover through a thing and a double splash through a table. Like they did a lot.
So just for some background, because we kind of jumped into it. I know we've been jumping around a lot on this. That we are coming into, and it's not even really the culmination of it. A 2-year story. If everybody remembers, it was Double or Nothing 2020 when Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss got put together as a tag team.
Right.
They should have called the Jersey Boys, but didn't. But anyway, I don't think they ever had I don't think they ever had a name. But they got put together as a tag team, and they worked together for about a year and a half until you had the inevitable split when Joey turned on Sonny Kiss during one of the first Orlando tapings and kicked Sonny in the face. And then
we have talked about this feud extensively on the show.
We have. We just haven't in a while, partly because we haven't been here, and they've been wrestling since then. Well, they've had some run-ins on. They've had a couple of Sonny Joey matches. They've had some tag matches. They've had some run-ins on Sonny's matches and on Joey's matches.
Joey said he's frustrated, sort of frustrated, and he kept saying that. And that was the thing. And also Alex Marvez and the
which was funny once and then stopped being funny really quick.
The Dimple Factory, something like that.
But that's a story they've done almost entirely on Dark for a long time.
Exactly, and there was a Dark, and they forgot about it for a while, and then they finally got back to it, which again was ties into the thing I've been saying, which finally Dark is like its own show again.
Mm-hmm. And I was gonna say they blew it off with a fantastic street fight, but Joey Janela went over, so it can't be over. There's got to be some kind of comeback.
Like, why do you think it's not over because of that?
Because when the heel wins, the feud is not over.
But it's a Dark feud. I mean,
no, not in AEW. When the heel wins, the feud is not over.
Oh, that's so in the famous like Brandon Cutler Peter Avalon feud. Brandon Cutler went over at the end, right?
That's right. He won. Right. He was the first one to get a win.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And now he's doing some better things.
Being the greatest stooge of all time.
I mean, I think Patterson and Brocco had something to say about that. Joe Briscoe.
I don't know. I think he may be a better stooge even than Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe. They never, if they wore track suits and goggles everywhere, maybe they would be better.
The best stooges ever were Joey Abs and Pete Gas and the Pete Fossey. You're right. That's my fault.
I don't know if I'd agree with that either, but I
love wearing those sweater vests.
Sweater vests are pretty good, but the tracksuit, the velour tracksuit of multicolors, of different colors that match whatever the Bucks are wearing.
Yeah, he's like a tracksuit mafia, like from hockey.
He is.
Bro, every time.
except useless.
Oh yeah.
um, gosh, what else have we? What else? I mean, so much stuff's happened. Jurassic Express has exploded. They had
Finds a way.
a ton. Really, it really has. They've had a ton of great matches against Undisputed Era and the Elite. Luchasaurus has gotten really big and really over in the ring, and he only has to do like.
That's a thing.
There was a period where it's like.
They did Jungle Boy his own solo push for a while,
yeah.
But you still hear from the crowd. Luchasaurus is super over.
There was a period where like some of the stuff wasn't working and people were like not giving it, not really cheering for him. But now he's not doing a lot. He's found like 5 things that he can always do, and he does those 5 things, and it always gets over.
Yeah, well, he does kicks.
He does the kicks. He does the goozle with the reverse goozle with the drop onto the other guy. It always works. He stopped doing the standing moonsault, which is probably for the best, and it always works.
Why did he stop doing that? He was so good at it.
I think they wanted. I don't know. Maybe they wanted Jungle Boy to do that. Maybe they think it's better for him to be a big man. I don't know. After watching Ridge Holland get stomped in the face and his nose broken on Saturday, it's probably for the best if nobody does that. Yeah. Yeah. Or with the time where Red Velvet tried to do one and she landed on her face. Maybe it's time to retire the standing moonsault for a little bit.
Oh, speaking of, how's Lance Archer doing?
He's still on the shelf. He said apparently he's okay, but they are. Well, they take apparently they. Yeah, I know. Apparently they take neck injuries real seriously, which is good. Same reason why Ricky Stark hasn't wrestled except for one match in months, where like he's been medically cleared, but they're like, nope, just stay on commentary. We're not going to rush it because we don't want it something.
Which is slowly working into like the commentary, like the jokes about it. I'm like, oh, you're going to wrestle again, everything with him.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he's going to have his hands full of hooks. So
yeah, I'm sure he's done a couple of dark matches, but from what I understand, like Archer's in the same boat where he's they're taking it slow because they're really careful with necks.
That was a bad bump, man.
That was a bad bump.
Like,
but you know what? You don't need to do a standing moonsault when you do that stuff. They had a great match between.
he does that all the time. He just didn't clear it. The one, it's a fluke.
There was a great match between the Acclaimed and I can't remember who. I can't remember if it was Bear Country. I don't think it was Bear Country. I think it's someone else. It was just like a week ago where Bowens comes in to do the Acclaimed have arrived and he got goozled right in the middle of it, so it comes out. Yeah, the Acclaimed have irk.
You could tell he was setting up for that spot because after the rap, he was like, "I got more to say." I'm like, "Okay, when you say you've got more to say, you're inviting." I was like, "The Acclaimed have."
Yeah, but that was so great. They did that right into the microphone. It's fantastic. But there you go. There's a feud that's owned that they have had promos for and pitched for, but it's only on Dark. But it's great.
But it's like the Acclaimed have always been that kind. They've always had their shit on Dark. You see their raps on like they're no stranger to Dark.
Yeah, but they get a lot of TV time too because they're good. Especially Bowens. Bowens has been getting a lot. Bowens is like the new Darius Martin. He's getting like a lot of reps on TV.
But he's a fucking great wrestler.
Because he's a great wrestler.
I mean, Max Caster just goes in and talks and everything, but Max Caster's not even bad. But Bowens is very fucking good. So yeah.
Max Caster's like, I mean, he's fine as a wrestler, but like him as like the manager for Bowens is an act because he can talk. I mean, he can talk a lot of shit, and Bowens can back it up in the ring, and this stuff is really good.
Bad on the mic or anything. We've seen.
Yeah, he's fine.
Partially blonde thing where they're going back and forth. He was very good.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that he's getting I don't know. I guess he's getting his time on Dark and Elevation, which is and
he's been on TV. They've had him on TV against like top guys. He loses, but he's gotten like TV. You can see them putting him into that same arena that they're putting Darius Martin and Lee Moriarty and Daniel Garcia.
Oh yeah, that whole storyline.
Yeah.
What's
going on?
Which I was like, oh, so he was a Team Taz?
That's true. We didn't even talk about that. It's been so long. We've had Darius Martin left Leo Rush to join Team Taz, to turn out that he and Leo Rush had planned all the time to screw Team Taz when they had the over-the-top battle royal for the Diamond Ring, where Darius Martin threw out Team Taz. And ensured that no one from Team Taz came in, which included Ricky Starks. I think that was like the last thing Ricky Starks did was get thrown out of the ring.
Right. But also, like, I kind of disappointed because I kind of was looking forward to like seeing what Dante Martin would do with Team Taz, but all of a sudden he just kind of pushed the trigger like on the
He
switch.
was
Like,
that was never a fit. He's never going to make it as a heel. He
oh
can't.
no, of course not. But also, I don't think Private Party is heels. So.
That's true. Private Party
Yeah.
aren't good as
But I
heels.
felt like there's a longer storyline they could have done with that whole thing, other than just like what they did.
Yeah, they just wanted a really good spot, and now they got a feud. But now you have like a long-term feud between Leo Rush and Dante Martin and Team
He's a
Taz.
heel at first, and all of a sudden, like now he's a face because of
I, you know what? This the thing that I like. That one of the things they do well is they listen to the crowd and they watch what happens in the ring. Like he did definitely come in as a heel.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, half the crowd. We'll get into that in a second about the Cody Rhodes thing, but because Leo Rush is much more clear cut. It just in that they were definitely bringing him in as it felt like as a heel, and it was going to be something between Darius and Dante Martin and Leo Rush. But then they had like the first tag match where people were going more bananas for Leo Rush than anyone else in that ring, including Darius Martin, and they were like, no, we got to make this guy a babyface. He's just too awesome.
He's exciting style, also alongside Dante Martin, who, like you said, is a fantastic babyface. So.
And how's he gonna? I mean, I've seen him wrestle as a heel. He was a heel a lot in WWE, so I shouldn't say how, but like when you have an explosive, fast style like that, it's really hard to wrestle as a heel because everything you're doing is exciting, and that's true. But Adam Cole can slow things down too and be a jerk. Yeah.
You can't compare like a lot of people to him.
So let's talk about Cody. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. In that, when you watch, I know there's a conventional wisdom. The thing about conventional wisdom is it's mostly always wrong. The conventional wisdom about Cody is that everybody just got, the fans got fed up with his 2 TV shows and his outfit and making everything about himself, and they just couldn't wait to start. Well, I mean, that's what people will say. I don't think anybody who's complaining about it. I don't think anybody who's complaining about the shows watched them. I think they just complained about the fact that they existed and that there were like ads for them all the time. It was just. I think that a lot of that was like rationalization for
the Bella show. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that was my point. For people saying that was a reason for anyone to start booing Cody. I mean, he was getting booed against Malachi because Malachi was really cool, but then people kept booing. But then people kept booing him even after he was done with Malachi, just because they decided they were going to boo Cody Rhodes. And you just had a group of fans who decided, this is just a thing we're going to do. We're going to throw his weight belt back and we're going to boo whenever he comes into the ring. But
like early John or mid John Cena.
But it is most definitely a subset of fans. Now it's, boos are always louder than cheers, so it sounds like it's everyone, but you can watch the people around the ring when Cody makes his entrance. You will see an equal amount of thumbs up and claps as you will see thumbs down. If you watch what people are actually doing, it's about 50-50. And you can hear it.
I wasn't sure. I'm just like, hey, you're doing great, guy. That's funny. You're like, yeah, people get thumbs up. I'm like, you like clap or like yell. I'm never like, okay, sign like thumbs up.
No. Those are people going, hey, Cody. I mean, you see, they have, hey, I will not boo Cody. I will not turn against Cody signs.
The cheers, he does have dueling chants.
I mean, and he has dueling chants.
He sucks, yeah.
Yeah, it was very clear, especially during that Ethan Page match. It was a very clear dueling. Let's go, Cody. Cody sucks. It's probably about 50-50. You have 50% of the people, and at this point, it doesn't even really seem to have anything to do with Cody. You just have 50% of the people who are going to cheer against. Who are going to boo Cody because they've decided they're going to boo Cody, and that's what they want to do. And you have the other 50% are like, well, we're not going to do that because we're not assholes. And it's like that everywhere. Like, I have not been to a live wrestling show yet where there wasn't like 2 or 3 like smart assholes behind me who were like, we're going to do the opposite of whatever anyone's doing because we think it's funny. We're going to cheer for the heels because you're not supposed to.
John Cena, he's born
or we're going to call every wrestler by their WWE name just to show that we know what it was and that they had to change.
That gimmick is tired a little bit.
Yeah, it's not like CM Punk and Beach Balls at WWE shows where people only started doing that when they got really bored because the stuff that they were getting fed was really boring or
I think
really
it was the what chants. Like that's what
or the what chant. It's this is much more like, yeah, we just decided to do this. We are entertaining ourselves at this point because that's the type of people we are.
So do you like that he took the title off of Sammy kind of soon?
No, I felt like that. I felt like they really should have given Sammy more time. I'm assuming some of that was due to the numbers. I mean, Cody is already drawing more numbers than Sammy did. So maybe they figure, but if Sammy takes it off of Cody, that gives Sammy better numbers, and then he can go defend it more. I don't know.
Still on the table. I mean,
maybe they're like, if we give it to Sammy in a bigger purview on Battle of the Belts, we can make a bigger, because they are much more focused, and this includes Cody, who, I mean, people forget he lost like his first 3 pay-per-view matches on purpose. Is it somebody who's much more focused on making the stars of tomorrow than he is?
But then he really went over Anthony Ogogo in that match, and I even don't like Anthony Ogogo.
Well, he was supposed to put. I mean, the plan was
his
to put.
He's been all weird, like all over the.
Well, some of that is like not out of his control, right? Like the original plan was to put Anthony Ogogo over. The only reason Anthony Ogogo lost a Double or Nothing is because he had to go back to England for eye surgery, and they didn't know when he was coming back. Yeah. So so they just got stuck, and so instead they just had him knock Cody out before he left, but they got stuck in a bad spot. Originally, he was supposed to lose that match.
I mean, that makes sense.
I feel like there's a chance that they want to do. I mean, don't forget, Cody is the guy who made Darby Allin, right? I mean, the thing that made Darby Allin a main eventer was winning the TNT title off of Cody. And they spent like a year doing that, where he couldn't beat Cody and couldn't beat Cody and couldn't beat Cody until he did. Maybe they're like, let's do that with Sammy, because Cody and Sammy wrestled one of the first match ever in on Dynamite. That was a big part of the story of their rematch was, we wrestled the first match on Dynamite and you weren't able to beat me. Maybe they're like, all right, if Sammy can finally beat Cody, now he's accomplished something, and he'll really start to have that main event feel. I don't know.
AEW has like a Hulk Hogan in there where he has to like get all the wins himself, or like sacrifice booking for everyone else. I mean, you could even, I guess, in that same vein, argue for CM Punk, but at least CM Punk makes his opponents look good. So
I mean, CM Punk makes sense.
He's got all the glory for himself, but it's kind of weird that he has 3 TNT titles already. Like,
well, one of those is because he was putting over Brody Lee, and he put over Brody Lee in 3 minutes. I mean, and then he did the same thing for Malachi Black. He let himself get squashed to put those guys over huge.
No matter what.
Well, they didn't know that. I don't think they knew that until it happened. I think and that squash was probably a big part of that. That was his first match. I mean, that was his first match. It was in 2 weeks, and then that was his first match. And I think it worked out better than they were ever expecting, because he was never that popular. I mean, he was popular in WWE, but he was never that popular, and I don't think anybody expected him.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he's way more popular in AEW than he ever was. And part of that was just how badly he was booked, because everybody who's not like Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns is badly booked. But that's just
Goldberg,
the way it goes, or Goldberg or something like that. But, and because he went off to do that Go Big Show, because I think the original plan for the original TNT title run was always going to be lose it to Darby in order to make Darby. And so he wanted to make sure that they wanted it to be on Cody when that happened. That it meant more for Darby to win it from Cody than it did to win from Brody Lee.
Darby's actually the best examples in AEW I think of, like where wins and losses really don't matter. Like that guy's
not anymore. They mattered when he started, but now they don't. Right. He can lose to CM Punk and it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, he's lost his last 2 pay-per-view matches, but it doesn't matter at all. He's over. And you can put him in a main event whenever, and everybody's like, yeah, that's a main event match that I will pay.
Like just hilarious shit like like no sell a double powerbomb through a table, or get into like
that was great. That's one of the best. That was one of the best things I've ever seen, was no selling that double powerbomb through.
I texted you that match. I was like, did you fucking just no sell a double powerbomb?
And I was like, you better fucking believe he did. It was awesome. That was great. I don't care who anybody says. That's you. When you have somebody who can no sell a table spot and it's great, do it. Always do it.
So in my match, December 11th, I was sidewalk slammed. It took me like 2 weeks just to walk from my bed. So like, I totally get it. Like that's a big deal.
Well, that just means you're in worse shape than a 62-year-old man with spinal stenosis.
Well, I'm not. I am not more.
I think you might be.
So another thing that was, speaking of the Sting thing, that out of all the shows he missed is when CM Punk teamed with Sting and Darby Allin to have that
Well, that's
match.
what I was saying. That Greensboro, yeah.
Yeah, and so I love that they changed like the face makeup, where
Yeah.
Punk had the old school like makeup and
Yeah.
just all like lightning.
Had this.
Fists.
That was great. That's the kind of stuff AEW does. They do great party matches. They do better party matches than anyone else, and they remember that.
And tags. Other than the referee part, they're always good, like featuring the players.
Well, they remember that like a party match is, but that wrestling's supposed to make you happy and feel good, and nothing makes you happy and feel good like a good party match. That's why the Young Bucks are so over, because they do better party matches than anyone. Although in this case, those guys really made it better. Yeah, they do. Well, Isaiah Quinn's been hurt for a while. Maybe now that he's back, they can get back on track.
He just came back.
Yeah, he did.
He heals for some fucking reason. And Matt Hardy's still working all these fucking shows.
Yep.
That guy's like the hardest working wrestler in AEW, I swear to God.
He's everywhere. He's on every dark and on every TV show.
Even my friends are like, maybe just take a vacation for a little while. I'm like, I don't know. What does Hardy family office do?
He's got to make that money, man.
Yeah. Well, he's still got to make the money.
Yeah.
I just miss the Damascus stuff. I love that wacky shit.
I do. I liked it, but I like Big Money Matt better. I like The Truth is the Truth. I
like that. I always like when people reinvent themselves. So it's nice to you feel like, okay, like this is why he was always better than Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy's always done the same bullshit for like 20 years. Matt Hardy's reinvented himself like at least 5 or 6 times. Yeah. So I like that part, but there's some things you like to go back to. I'm like, I don't even mind a Matt fact once in a while, like that type of thing. Like, and that's such a testament to him, because he's done all these like very amusing gimmicks in the wild. I mean, to me, almost mind blowing with the shit we did with Damascus. So, yeah.
The only thing that's really downside for him is that I don't know. They can always pull something out, but there'll probably never be anything that's as good as Stadium Stampede. And it's like, to his credit, that he was like a big part of Stadium Stampede, but it's like, how are you going to top that?
Yeah. Wait, sorry. I'm talking about the Hardy compound match, right? Talking about the original Stadium Stampede.
No, the original Stadium Stampede, like where he goes in the water and he that's right. He kept teleporting, and then it was like a horse and shit. Yeah. Well, like when they put him in the water, and he kept like reincarnating into different versions of Matt Hardy in the water in the pool.
Yeah, that was so
and they put like Santana in the bell and rang him so that he was bouncing everywhere. I mean, it was great.
So that brings us to another thing, because we've seen Santana Ortiz like actually on TV a lot, especially in the Dark Knight. And so they're getting it, but you know what I do miss is like I miss Goofy Ortiz.
Yeah.
Very serious. Like he's basically like Santana Jr. these days. And I kind of miss it when he had the Tiger style, like the only thing, like, even though he was a heel, but it's kind of funny to see he was goofy once in a while. But
I guess
he hasn't differentiated himself from like Santana at all these days, which I feel it's like kind of like, you were your own character before.
Yeah. I guess they don't want him to be like come across too much like best friends, which can be very goofy. And maybe they want them to be taken seriously because at some point, I'm assuming at some point they have them tipped to be tag team champions. So they want them to be taken as championship material.
It's kind of funny that now their faces, now they're serious. So it's like, faces should be more goofy. The heels should be serious, but whatever.
It depends on the promotion. It depends a lot on actually, it's a good point. Like in AEW, generally, the faces are serious up to a point, and then they'll get kind of goofy. And then the heels are serious up to a point, and then they'll get kind of goofy. And then sometimes you end up in like Bizarro land, like Long Island, where MJF comes out and is cheered like a hero by the entire stadium.
Thing. Like even with the video package and everything.
That was a great.
Like, to me, that was like they were testing out. Hey, how would MJF work as a face?
Like,
yeah, which he did, and then all of a sudden, like he's kind of turned at the last second on like like everybody. But like he basically was a face for like 75% of that show.
But even when he was a face, even when he was doing heel things, he was still a face. Like when every time he'd hide behind Wardlow during the entire match, but as soon as he got up on the ring, everybody would go like, "Yeah, MJF!" Everybody would cheer.
Yeah, you recognize talent.
I mean, they came out. He had an entire group of people cheer. It was almost like, what would MJF be like as a babyface? And they cheered for him. He went out among the crowd.
Like really, it was really just running Bret Hart in Canada shit.
Yeah, no, that was exactly what it was. It was Bret Hart in Canada is what it was.
Yeah.
But with someone who's a lot more oily. I mean, Bret Hart was always Bret Hart, even when he was a heel. He was still Bret Hart, but MJF was just a dick.
Also, Bret Hart barely talks. So
yeah, that's true.
And the action figure has him with a microphone in his hands. So.
Bret Hart as a heel was very much like, I believe so strongly that I'm better than you that I'm not going to run away when you come at me because I know I can beat you. Whereas MJF is like, I'm going to say that, but then I'm going to run away and hide behind a bigger dude.
Arrogant heel, and then there's the MJF arrogant heel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so now that brings us to this week and the move to TBS. We've got Hangman Page versus Danielson II, which I don't think can top Hangman Page versus Danielson 1. I mean, that'd be really, you're not going to do another 60-minute draw, so I don't know how you can top it.
Do you really think there's going to be finish to this match? Like,
yeah, I think there'll be a
finish. I'm really surprised that they keep doing this, like, of course not just.
I don't think you can carry it a third time. I think there has to be a finish.
You don't think you could?
I think, and actually this is going to be my question to wrap it up, but I don't think they're going to carry it to the pay-per-view. I just don't think there's enough gas in it to stretch it out that far. I think if to do a rematch this quickly, I think they have to have a finish. And they keep talking about it like it has to have one. And I would say, like, I don't see how it can be better than the first one, but I didn't see how anything could be better than the Danielson Omega match either. So
exactly.
Who knows?
Danielson keeps finding ways to, like, especially with the flexibility between facing the heel, just putting on good match after good match. I've been so impressed with the way he's doing things. Especially his heel turn was just very sudden. It was just also just like, okay.
All he had to say was, the way I'm better than you. I wrestled after winning at WrestleMania, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's at WrestleMania. We hate you now."
Five Angels needs to go back to the mask.
I don't like him without the mask. He needs to put the mask back on.
Right, you wrestled differently. So when he had the mask, he wrestled angrily, right?
Yeah.
He tried to be like a more complete wrestler, which I kind of get, but
he just looks like he just comes across like a skinny dude with a beard. He needs to put the mask back on.
Yes, exactly that.
Especially in the Dark Order, he looks like a skinnier John Silver, so you're less interested in him.
Right? Yeah. At least it differentiated him when you had the mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be their whole thing. They all supposed to have masks, and it's a cult. But then Brody died.
Yeah, now it's all falling apart.
Yeah.
At least 10 still wears the mask.
Now Adam Page is like the de facto leader without actually saying it. So because it wouldn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Well, they don't have to build up and fight the Elite. Although I still think they can get some mileage out of Adam Page and the Dark Order doing something. But they also want to keep him serious because he's a babyface world champion.
No, and also Dark Order, ever since Brody died, I mean, they're firmly baby faces. Like
they can't be heels.
No, it's a good like babyface faction to have behind you when you have like maybe Cody Rhodes should sign up with Dark Order, like that. Like everyone cheer for him, like he so dearly wants. So
people cheer for him. Next thing you're going to tell me that QT Marshall isn't cool.
Hey, he should grow a mustache back.
He should grow that mustache back.
The one time I made eye contact with Cody Rhodes, ringside at a SmackDown show, and I said, "Cody's mustache." He looked at me. He was like, "Yeah, you heard that."
You were that.
Kind of mustache too. It was very ironic, but yeah,
whatever. you were that guy.
Yeah, hey, that was a fun show because like my girlfriend at the time like bought me. We were supposed to go to the show together, and all of a sudden she's like, "Hey, here's a ticket for the show." I'm like, "Oh, so were you sitting?" She's like, "No, I messed up. I only bought you one ticket." It's like, well, obviously I'm gonna go. So bye. And that's when Cody stared at me. So yeah.
There you go. He's probably wondering why you were there alone. You loser.
Yeah, I'm sure he thinks about that night a lot.
That probably does. He's like, "Where's that motherfucker who talked about me growing back a mustache?"
Got delivered. He was like, what was she mean?
You never know what it is that sticks with people. Some weird stuff sticks with people.
No.
Besides that, we have the conclusion to the TBS tournament. We have a lot of big stuff. I don't think it's on this one. No, it is. Yeah, Lucha Brothers versus Jurassic Express for the tag team championship. So you got like three big. That's true. But one of them is going to be heel, and it's probably going to be Lucha Brothers. Are probably going to work heel in the match. And we didn't even talk about. I don't want to get into it because we've gone on for a while, but we've had like a 3-month feud between Lucha Brothers and FTR, which is amazing across 2 promotions. Because they switched the title so that FTR are the AAA Lucha Libre and keep calling themselves the greatest luchadors of all time, which is hilarious. And they've gone to Mexico twice. They went on the Triple Mania Regia show and had some people put it down, but I actually thought it was a pretty good ladder match. against the Lucha Brothers for the title. And now they're getting ready to have him go back to have a match against Jalistico and and Hio del Vikingo for the tag team titles, and that match is going to rule.
Fan, but as far as work rate goes in AEW, I don't think you can get much better than Lucha Brothers versus FTR.
That's great. I mean, some people talk about contrast of styles, but I thought it was great.
But even you know all the things I complain about with tag team matches were like, oh, like the referees just let everything happen and do the spots. FTR still is the only tag team that actually recognizes how long you have to be in the ring and switch out.
They always follow. It's very weird in that they are heels, but they always follow the rules. They hold the tag rope. They wait for the time. They will. Yeah. I love Super on this.
But yeah.
And they are great heels in AAA. They do the entire we're Americans and we're better than you because we're from America and everyone hates them. The only weird thing about it is because
Dutch
Mantel The only weird thing about it is because for whatever Tully won't travel to Mexico, so when they go to Mexico, Vicky Guerrero is their manager, which is a very different feel.
You want to go back?
Which is a very, very different feel. Like FTR with Vicky Guerrero, it is very different than FTR with Tully Blanchard. Yes, it's a lot like that.
Well, just like whatever she does every time. But, she's under spot.
Yeah. So and it looks like that stuff still continues, even as FTR turns around and goes against Sting and Darby Allin, which is great. I mean, that's a great feud. That's a pay-per-view level match. So with that said, I want to look ahead. We are now a month and a half, 6 weeks out from Revolution, which is going to be back in North Carolina again. I know. So is it North Carolina or Tennessee? I think it's North Carolina. Well, yeah, I think that's right. I think it's in like Charlotte.
It has a Arrested Development song behind it. Wow, I'm old. Don't you remember Mr. Wendell for Everyday People?
No. But so what do we think are the pay-per-view matches that they're building towards? Because they definitely have them in mind now and are building towards them. The most obvious one is CM Punk versus MJF, which I'm pretty sure they're holding that for pay-per-view. But other than that, if we're assuming
Jericho versus Eddie's is coming,
maybe
they're gonna be on the same side. That's a good match to have. I think that could happen sooner rather than later.
Could be. So if we think that Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson is going to wrap up here, who is Hangman Page's first pay-per-view opponent? The first time Hangman Page has to sell a pay-per-view on his name, who's the best person you put him against?
Well, based on the rhetoric that all the wrestlers have been doing in promos, like CM Punk has been trying to interject himself into the title picture pretty quickly.
But if he's wrestling MJF on this pay-per-view, on the same pay-per-view, it can't be him.
Oh, okay.
That seems like more likely to be.
Also, I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse in this because the Battle of the Belts, I think, could determine where all this goes. Like, you can't just say every champion's going to keep their belts at the Battle of the Belts show or everything. Like,
well, only 2 of the belts are being defended.
Okay, all right.
So it won't be, the AEW champ. It's probably still going to be Hangman Page after Wednesday. He's not on Battle of the Belts.
I mean, where's Bryan Danielson go after if he loses? It's weird for not to imagine them in a title picture like for an
I'd be willing if they it depends on whether they want to keep him face or keep him heel or turn him face again. They could easily use him to start pushing one of their young guys that they want to be a main event guy. You could put him against Jungle Boy or put him against Sammy, put him against Darby. We haven't seen like a Bryan Danielson.
Miro coming back, and Miro has been like intimating about coming back and taking the title, so I could see him.
Well, Miro, it seems like an obvious one would be against Adam Cole, but since that's something that they seem to be doing with the Young Bucks, I don't think that there's time for them to do that. So, because actually, I suspect like Young Bucks and Kenny versus Undisputed Era is something that they could do for the pay-per-view.
Happen eventually. Although still, it's weird that you're saying the Young Bucks are side with Kenny when I still feel like during that whole thing where Kenny lost the title, the Young Bucks were kind of the reason he did.
I don't think so, only because they're going to want to keep there's almost, I hate to say it, there's almost no reason for Red Dragon to be around if they're not with Adam Cole. Red Dragon is Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly's tag team outside of WWE.
Oh, so it's like super quick outside of
yeah. I mean that was their tag team in like New Japan and PWG for a long time. They just couldn't use that name in WWE, so they became Undisputed Era.
Red Dragon tattoo, or like wasn't this a Ray Fine movie, Red Dragon too? Both
It
of them
was.
yeah,
Red Dragon.
yeah.
I don't know why they call it Red Dragon. That's just what they do. Because like Red Dragon feuded against Mount Rushmore a lot when in ROH and PWG.
Like wrestling presidents or
no. That was Kevin Steen and the Young Bucks had a faction. They were so good. They were the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. That was what their tag team was called.
Wrestling. That's not as funny as what I thought.
But still pretty. So I think it makes sense to have Kenny and the Young Bucks
great wrestlers
versus Undisputed Era, because you have trio versus trio.
Right. I still wonder when AEW was going to do like a 3-man tag belt.
They keep talking about it, but who knows when it's actually going to happen. They do keep talking about it. So who is for Adam Page? I think Miro makes a lot of sense. I figure it's going to be CM Punk and Adam Cole at some point, but that's for the future. That's not going to be now.
The only immediate name I can think of after the whole thing is Miro. I can't think of really anyone that's like on that level yet, where they've even promoting him to that level.
That could sell. Yeah, that they've pushed to that level that could sell like a pay-per-view. I mean, MJF, but he's in the CM Punk match, so you can't do it with him. Yeah, like who else is at the top of the card?
Also, I get the feeling they're going to keep MJF out of the title picture for a while. I mean, because he had that match against Moxley for a little bit. It could be John Moxley if he came back early enough, but Moxley's headlined a bunch of pay-per-views. If you want to prove that Adam Page can headline one by himself, you probably need to let him headline one by himself. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying the Moxley will come.
Well, no, I'm just like spitballing. Who are the top card guys who can do a pay-per-view?
Right.
There's MJF, CM Punk, Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Miro, Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Who else?
But these people are already in their own thing, except for a few people like Miro and like the people that already mired in their own shit. Right now.
I mean, they have shown that they are willing to take guys who hover around top of card and push them into it, because they put Pac and Orange Cassidy and Eddie into pay-per-view main events before, so they will go. They will in Christian Cage, but those aren't guys you would immediately think of. I could see Pac. Actually, Pac and Adam Page could do a pretty good pay-per-view main event. Pac is one of the only guys. Pac and MJF and Kenny Omega and Brian Cage, I think, are like the only 4 guys who've ever beaten Adam Page.
Okay. I guess I forgot about Brian Cage beat Adam Page. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, if he wasn't like totally out of the picture, Brian Cage would make sense. But
yeah, I don't think that's it. Yeah.
If Lance Archer wasn't hurt, Lance Archer would make sense. So, at some point in the future, Powerhouse Hobbs, but that seems like a bit too soon for him.
Yeah, but I don't think they're building. Yeah, like they're not even building up to that level yet. You know, they're having Wardlow do all these squash matches rather than Hobbs right now, which is kind of the same gimmick, right? Because it used to be the Hobbs doing like the body slammer.
Yeah. So I can't think of anyone outside of Miro.
It's a murky picture right now.
I assume at some point it's going to be MJF. It's just a question of, do they want to pass the title to MJF, or are they going to have him beat him? I assume at some point it's going to be CM Punk. At some point, you want to put the title on CM Punk because he is going to have your biggest pay-per-view draws.
Of course,
and sooner rather than later, because he's just getting older. So
well, talk about the title like recently.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go that soon. They really do like to protect the world title. Yeah. I mean, people hold that for like a year. They let their champions hold that for like a year. They don't just pass it around.
Right.
But 2022 seems like a good year for CM Punk to have it, where he's still early enough in his contract, and he can have it for a year and put on good matches.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, CM Punk can still put on good matches. He's still going to be over. So I think a lot of the storylines are going to really flesh out in the next couple of weeks, really, about where like everybody's going to go and what they're going to do. Because right now we're still kind of in a holding pattern with all these feuds. Like there's not something new. Like even I guess like I mentioned earlier, I think Jericho Eddie's something new, but we don't even agree that's going to be a feud right now.
Of course, there are guys out there who could come in. I mean, there are a lot of guys who've been cut. Like Keith Lee could come in, and they could put him immediately into a title picture.
Sure. Yeah, believe it. All out so great, right? You know, all these like ninja things going to show up, and like he thought it was going to be boring. I mean, we didn't think it was going to be. We heard the rumors who was going to be there.
Yeah,
but, you know,
it was different when it actually happens.
themselves up.
I know a lot of people would really like it if Bray Wyatt came out. I would not. I don't know, unless he did something way different than he's ever done before. I would not be
I
looking
feel like if that
forward
was
to a
going to
Bray Wyatt
happen,
match. I agree. I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened.
yeah, there's mostly something else. That's why it happened because he's just a bankable star. Like it was going to happen. It would have.
I feel like it was like the same thing with Braun Strowman. They were like, no, that's not the kind of guy we're looking
That's
for.
a good point. It's just like Braun Strowman. Like, yeah, if they were going to do it, they could have brought him in a while ago. It's not like he's working anywhere right now, but they just didn't.
I tell you, I take it back. There is one option that I'm sure they've thought of that has major logistics difficulties, so they haven't really been able to do it. They bring in a top number one guy from New Japan, because that would be
Will
some
Ospreay, that's what you're going to say, isn't it?
like Will Ospreay or Okada or Ibushi. Will Ospreay would
talk about fighting us, like the AEW people. So I
feel
like
he's been talking about it a lot. So I think he'd probably be more interested in like Omega or
I'm still not
CM Punk
sold
or
on this
Danielson.
clothesline as being like a great finishing move, but
It is when Okada does it. Oh, he had a great. So just to close this out, Wrestle Kingdom is going on right now.
That's right. Yeah.
And he like right now, night one was last night. Night two is getting ready to start in about 5 hours. But Okada just had a fantastic match with Shingo Takagi last night. He's getting ready to have what will probably be a fantastic match with Will Ospreay. Yeah, like Will Ospreay, I would say especially for Adam Page, Will Ospreay or Jay White. And Jay White is still in America. Both of those could be pay-per-view headlining events. Yeah, like an Adam Page, Jay White, that could work really well. And Adam Page, Will Ospreay would work really well. And Ospreay's due back in America at the end of January, where he's going to wrestle against Brian Cage for the Warrior Wrestling Championship. So he will be in the States.
That's where Brian Cage is. Okay.
Yeah, he's working. He's just not working on TV.
For AEW. Yeah. Well, I mean, and we're no strangers to AEW. Like all of a sudden, with that badass, like the old badass that fought John Moxley.
Mm-hmm. Minoru Suzuki.
Yes. So you don't need like a build for a week. So obviously you just say they're going to show.
Yeah, if they said if Okada showed up on Dynamite and said, if Okada showed up, if Okada showed up on Dynamite the week before Revolution and said, I want to face you for the title at Revolution, people would tune in for that right away. Now, ideally, you want a longer build than that for your pay-per-view, but still, people would tune in.
I mean, if you don't need one, then that's fine.
Yeah. If Will Ospreay would probably need like a good 4 weeks, but definitely that's a match. Outside of that, I can't think. Like you would have to have somebody lead. Like if Walter left NXT and went on the free market agent, that would be
the hell out of him right now. Like Imperium, a big thing in WWE right now.
Yeah. Well, forget about it. You don't need Imperium. You don't need Imperium. You just need Walter. Forget about it.
But he is the reason why the Imperium's good, right?
Like, pretty much. Yeah. I don't think that's gonna happen. That'd be like saying, "What if Ricochet left?" or something. Like, it's not gonna happen. But what can you do?
Or what if Seth freaking Rollins left? Or
what if Seth freaking? The only way that would happen is if AEW started to have started to have better ratings than WWE and was taking in more money, and WWE decided to cut budget. But
we'll cut budget for another reason, I guess.
For a different reason. Yeah, so that's probably not gonna happen. Yeah. But oh well, what are you gonna do? All right. So I mean that's like a good 2 hours of covering 2 weeks of everything, and we're gonna a month. So we're gonna have to come back. I don't know if we want to try and wait until after Rampage, because I guess we have to wait till Sunday because we've got Dynamite and Rampage and Battle of the Belts on Saturday. So we got three, not counting tonight's Dark. We've got 3 days worth of AEW.
Wait, so Dynamite's on Wednesday, Rampage on Friday, and there's another show on Saturday?
Battle of the Belts is on Saturday.
Oh, I thought it was like okay, I didn't know.
Battle of the Belts is its own special. It's going to happen 4 times a year. So make sure you set your recording for it.
It's pay-per-view, basically. Yeah.
Basically, well, like it's only 1 hour, so it's not quite like that. But basically, I think they should. That's why they need to make it like 2 hours. But the first one is only an hour. I don't know why. The first one's only an hour. It's probably not long enough for what they're talking about it being.
It's 15-minute Iron Man match, and no one else can just go home.
So we're gonna have to wait until Sunday to wrap all this up. But I got a feeling like a bunch of news is going to come out of tomorrow, and we're going to see the directions leading us to Revolution coming out of tomorrow. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about Sunday. So we cannot wait 2 months for our next our next roundup.
Why just happen?
I know.
They were like, yeah, next week we'll see you, but then things happen. Like I
Then
get
things
we got wrestling or something, something happens.
Always something happens, but not this time. This time we will be back. You guys will not have to wait for another episode of All Elite Reviewing. We have too much to talk about.
Or we'll at least be very apologetic when we make you wait.
Exactly. If Shamik is on his deathbed, he will record All Elite Reviewing. If those are his last words ever spoken.
I'm thinking about these days. I'm celebration of life of the new year, but that's fine. If I'm dying, then yeah, I guess that'll be its own special episode.
Kind of special. Let's not go crazy here.
Are you okay? That's fine. I guess I can believe my next life, but like, you guys, my old life. Yeah.
Your next life.
Religious discussions. So.
Your next life better be able to record a podcast. Is all I'm saying.
Wait, I'm going to come back as Brody Lee or something like that.
I can say some stuff, but I'm not going to because I have class. So what I will say is, for All Elite Reviewing, I'm Joshua Starnes.
And I'm Shamik Ghosh.
All right, cue the music.